Hey everyone, Kevin here, and welcome back to my channel. Instructional designers aren't graphic designers, or are they? This question has plagued a lot of people moving into the industry because when they read the job description for an ID, graphic design isn't really one of the things you're supposed to know. But just because it isn't explicitly stated doesn't mean you actually don't need to know it. And even though technically speaking, IDs shouldn't have to be graphic designers either, the reality is that you do need to have skills as one to do the job effectively. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to have formal graphic design experience and some big degree in it, because honestly, few IDs have that anyway. I mean, I certainly don't. But I still recall the first couple of weeks of the ID certificate program I did, and how much I struggled with colors and fonts at first because I hadn't really been given any guidance on how to incorporate them in a way that would facilitate content delivery. It's one of the main reasons why I said a couple of episodes ago that there are projects I would never put in my portfolio now from those earlier days. The graphic design of them was awful because I was just learning how to make courses look good in addition to solving a training problem. One of my early storyline courses, for instance, had like a dark gray, burgundy interactives and text boxes and gold callouts. I'll see if I can find an old copy of it somewhere. If I can, I'll plop it here for you. I've kind of tried to block it out of my memory, to be honest. But the point is that your courses could be the most insightful and helpful things in the world, but if they aren't accessible, then you're going to wind up with a lot of learners who simply tune out your trainings or have a hard time looking at it. That course I mentioned was definitely full of good information and it flowed very well, but the course was dark and kind of unappealing to look at. Now, some IDs go a tad overboard with this, or at least go too far the other direction, where there's nothing but bright colors and lots of things going on around the screen all at once. That kind of makes it hard to look at. I remember reviewing a portfolio like that once, and my eyes legitimately hurt after looking at it for a few minutes. It was in some kind of bright white and hot pink coloring scheme that just again served to distract the learner rather than helping to focus them. And often, you won't have to worry too much about graphic design because there's a brand guide you have to follow given to you by whatever company you have to work for. One person transitioning into ID actually asked me if we needed to create brand guides ourselves because some of the academies out there have been pushing that idea. But I told her no. I don't know of any ID out there who would ever need to do that because companies want every piece of content to be branded with their logos and color schemes, which makes perfect sense. How you employ those colors in a training, though, is up to you. That's where the knowledge of graphic design and accessibility really shines through, and how you present that brand is important. As time goes on, too, you'll find what works for you. Besides, the tools you choose to make use of will be radically different based on your needs and the project at hand. Some need more of the Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop treatment. Others go the video skills route, and others need something else entirely. Remember that awful looking storyline course I mentioned from earlier in my career? Compare that with just the title card of a very first draft I'm creating right now of a course for Hainer to give you an idea of how my skills have developed over time. I created this using multiple different tools, including a background and foreground remover, shapes with shading and added transparency, and gradient colors in the button to match it with the exact color percentages put forth in Hainer Clinic's brand guide. I even used Canva for some of the arrows and colors I included later in the course. From just these two title pages, you can see how much I've grown just in terms of my graphic design. Is it this amazing, fancy thing you see on ID influencer portfolios or on LinkedIn project showcases? No, of course not. But it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be that level of media and tech savvy to make something that just looks good and what a learner would be drawn in by. There's way more I could have done in that new tile slide too, like add in shapes that are only partly on the screen, more animations, and a bigger variety of company color. But what I made was positively received because prior to this, most storyline courses were basically just PowerPoints using the same mundane solid color template at the company. You don't have to be an expert graphic designer to be an ID at all, or have really fancy equipment. You do need to have a good understanding of the basic principles of graphic design, though, and you can use whatever program you've got access to. Canva, Envato, FreePic, Figma, ChatGPT, heck, people often overlook how fantastic simple old PowerPoint graphics can be when it comes to designing things. And to plug a video here, I highly recommend Tim Slade's How to Practice Your E-Learning Visual Design Skills, where he uses PowerPoint to do just that. It's just a great starting video, really, and I highly recommend it. But anyway, the reality is that the requirements or maybe demands on your graphic or visual design skills will vary from one job to another and from one hiring manager to another. So it's hard to know exactly what a company wants until you're in the job and can really find out. Plus, anything design related is going to be subjective. So even though your visual design skill set may not have been good enough for one job, your existing ability may exceed expectations for another job. Truth be told, if you are worried about your graphic design skills or simply want to avoid that part of the job entirely, then you need to look for teams where each member is responsible for very specific pieces of a project where instructional designers are completely separated from course development. Don't let any of this discourage you, though. Keep moving forward, keep growing, and you'll learn to be better at this. I certainly didn't start out being good at it, and it took a lot of time for me to be exposed to it all and understand all the tools out there to find my groove. A lot of people go into ID from teaching and other careers because they've heard how much more creative the field is, which is true, but part of that creativity is that graphic design component. So be aware of that when you choose this industry. It's a difference between teaching and ID, and you need to be aware of it. Well, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please click like and subscribe or ring the bell button to stay up to date with all of my content. But for now, I've been Kevin, and I will see you in the next video.